Hi and welcome. We're here today at Bloomington City Hall to announce a new partnership between the cities of Bloomington and Columbus. I'm so glad that you're here with us today. Thanks for watching. I'm Yael Ksander, the City of Bloomington Communications Director, here today with some special guests. We have Mayor John Hamilton of Bloomington here to my left, and Mayor Jim Lienhoop of Columbus here to my right. Along with the mayors, we have Pat East, who's the Executive Director of Dimension Mill, Inc., which is running The Mill, and Cindy Frey, the President of the Columbus Area Chamber of Commerce. So we're here today to talk about a really exciting business partnership between our cities, and I'd love to have you all take it away. Let's talk about this wonderful opportunity to boost economic activity.
Well, you're looking at me, but first I want to welcome Mayor Lienhoop to Bloomington. We're grateful for you making the trip over here, and welcome to Bloomington and to the mayor's office. We've been over in Columbus too, and you know it's an interesting and fun day to me. Two cities, Columbus and Bloomington, that are smaller cities, deep histories, long histories, not so far apart physically. But we're announcing something today to help our communities and our people, more importantly, connect in ways that maybe we haven't done, or to encourage that to happen. With this new partnership we're doing with Elevate, which is an Indiana state program to support entrepreneurship and new businesses, and you'll hear more and better details about that from others. But I'm really excited that our two communities are kind of shaking hands and formally connecting in this way to help our economy. So, Jim, welcome.
Yeah, we use from time to time in Columbus, we refer to our economic engine, and that's a pun, related to the presence of Cummins. But we also have a significant, economy in addition to that. And as we look at Bloomington, we see a lot of complementary strengths. The presence of higher education, biomedicine, the real estate activities that you have here. And so we think that there's some real opportunities for us to learn from each other, to contribute to each other, sort of fill in the blanks, if you will, that each of us have, and create something greater than just 2 + 2 = 4. I think we can do 6 or 7. Some bigger, some high math, some real big math. But so we've sat beside each other for a number of years, and so this is an opportunity for us to really be purposeful about trying to create some engagement between the two communities. We're really excited about it.
Okay, so no more suspense. Let's talk in nuts and bolts. Maybe Pat and Cindy, you could fill us in on the specifics of this particular deal, which is actually happening not just between Bloomington and Columbus, but specifically between the Chamber in Columbus and DMI. Would you guys talk to that?
Yeah, so the partnership is between Dimension Mill, Inc., which is Bloomington's 19,000 square feet of co-working and incubator space that's opening up in a couple of weeks, and with the Columbus area Chamber of Commerce. So between the two cities, these are the two organizations that are really kind of spearheading the partnership. It's a $2.5 million partnership. Columbus has raised $500,000. Bloomington has raised another $500,000, and then that $1 million gets matched by $1.5 million from Elevate Ventures, which is a development venture firm in Indianapolis that invests in high growth, innovation driven and tech driven companies. And so that $2.5 million, we're going to split it evenly. It's an equal partnership. We'll split it on a pro rata basis based upon how much we raised, and it really should help and boost a lot of entrepreneurship and co-working and innovation and technology, all the things that we want to see in our communities to help it grow.
I would add that good things are happening in both communities around entrepreneurship. We're a very entrepreneurial city, but this just gives us some resources to be able to do more. Already the partnership with Elevate Ventures has brought a lot to our community. I think we've referred 9 companies to Elevate since our conversation started in January. So I can already see the potential in working in partnership with Bloomington and all the great resources and the talented people that are here, and working with Elevate Ventures and all that they bring to the table in terms of expertise and capital and connections.
So do I understand that Elevate was more inclined to invest in a relationship or a partnership rather than the cities individually? Is that correct?
That's what we understand. They have four partnerships that are already underway in basically the four corners of the state, but in the central part of the state, they were looking for some communities who were willing to come together.
Yeah, they've got a minimum investment from the local community that's $1 million, and that amount was a little too high for Columbus or Bloomington. But for together, we can bring that to pass, and I think that's a little bit of the strategy that Elevate Ventures has, is to encourage regionalism, to encourage communities that are nearby each other to find ways and reasons to partner. So, it kind of makes some sense, that we would want to participate in this program because they bring more to the deal than the two of us together. I mean, they bring $1.5 million. The two of us together bring $1 million, and so there's a significant encouragement, for us to find ways to partner, and we're happy to be able to do that.
And I might just add too, I know we may want to look at some of the things that come with the partnership, the entrepreneur in residence and that kind of thing. But more generally, as you said, Mayor, we all know cities live in regions. We succeed and fail as not just a city, but as a region. We're part of a state, kind of in the, we're kind of in the central Indiana orbit, but a little separate from that, and our histories have been evolving too. And I think part of this deal is reminding us that just like we each have families in our communities who work in both places, who one spouse goes to Columbus or one spouse comes from Columbus to Bloomington or whatever, partner. I think we hope this can kind of just create more of that interaction of really smart people in Columbus, entrepreneurial experience, technical expertise, similar on the Bloomington side, just to create more collisions, right? That's a lot of what this economy is about, creating more collisions and good collisions. I don't mean on 46. I mean creative collisions among people. We were going to meet in Nashville, but maybe we'll do that next time we're in Columbus. But I think that's what this is about too, is enhancing and supporting those both formal and informal interactions that way.
I feel like it would be appropriate right now to talk a little bit about Columbus. We're watching this on the City of Bloomington's Facebook. I'm hoping your people are sharing it on the Columbus Facebook. But it would be great to talk about the culture of Columbus and why, beyond simply geographical reasons, Columbus really has a culture that lends itself to partnering with us here in Bloomington. Let's brag on Columbus a little bit here.
Well, I'd be glad to do that. Yeah, it's always dangerous to ask a mayor to say a few words. Typically get more than just a few. But Columbus has a strong history of entrepreneurship, particularly tied to manufacturing. You've probably heard of Cummins, but some of the names that have come and gone down through the years would include Arvin, Golden Foundry, maybe Hamilton Costco. Some of those companies still exist in one form or another, but they generally started small 100 years ago, and today they're of significant size. But they have an attitude, and maybe even within them, of some kind of entrepreneurial activity. Cummins has several different business units, and it has done a really wonderful job of embracing a higher technology. I mean, there's more lines of code in a diesel engine than I can count. I mean, the number I was given exceeds 1 million. I mean, if you're going to be able to get the power that you want with the lower use of fuel and be able to control the emissions all at the same time, you need a really smart controller, for the engine. And so they're as much a tech company as they are a manufacturing company. But one of the things that we've noticed in Columbus is that the old model for how we spurred innovation or spurred growth was just really sort of fallen out of use today. The paradigm, if you will, is shifting. And what I mean by that is that we used to have a lot of guys who would work at our Cummins or work at Arvin, and they would decide to make parts on their own, say in their garage. And so they'd buy a lathe, or they'd buy a punch drill press or some other piece of equipment and just start out really small like that. And today those businesses, many of them have grown to 10, 20, $30 million of size. But that model doesn't seem to be replicating itself, in large part because we don't do a lot of that, that small tool work locally. But the entrepreneurial side still has an opportunity with the tech. As I mentioned, you've got a number of ways to control a diesel engine, or a number of ways to control a manufacturing process. We have a company called Frey that recently invested $57 million to create a paperless robotics. Is robotized? Is that a word?
Yeah.
Roboticized? I can't.
Can't be
A
now.
manufacturing operation that relies on robots, and robots working with each other. So the technology that is associated with this, it exists in Columbus, and the entrepreneurial spirit will tell us that sooner or later, people who work there will want to try something on their own. And Cummins and several of the other employers in Columbus have a long history of encouraging that. Because they understand that those people will still become vendors. They'll still work with us,
Yeah.
but maybe at a higher level. And so, part of what we're trying to do is continue that history, that culture of entrepreneurism, and trying to break some new boundaries here, particularly in the high-tech area. So for us, this venture, Elevate Ventures, makes a lot of sense. It's a way that we think that our community and our economy can continue to grow.
So making that connection between the funds and those guys noodling in the garages,
Right.
coming up with these great ideas. So Cindy, that's where the chamber comes in, and some of these initiatives you all have started up with SCORE, and
Right.
talk about how these added funds will boost that type of activity.
Yeah, absolutely. We have a really strong support system for entrepreneurs all under one roof at the Chamber, with a very active SCORE chapter, because we have so many talented retirees who stay in our community, and then the Indiana Small Business Development Center, which has an office and a full-time business advisor, and a small co-working space. So we're all under one roof. There are lots of services for entrepreneurs. But that being said, we still have gaps, and that system that supports entrepreneurs could be a little bit more visible to more people. Folks who are working in their garages inventing that next part may not know that help exists. So I think by plugging in with Elevate and some of these new resources, we can get a different skill set in a mentor who's used to working with venture capital and sort of innovation-driven businesses, maybe some early stage capital that can help fuel some of these new businesses, and then just more educational support.
Yeah, at this point, the suspense is killing me. I can't help but bring Pat into the conversation to talk about all of these wonderful entrepreneurs that we've been introduced to and been introducing to the larger community through our series online. I have to put in a little plug for it. It's the Bloomington Dreamers, Doers, and Entrepreneurs series. You'll have to check it out if you haven't already.
Don't you have to rhyme? Don't you have to say dreamers, viewers, and entrepreneurs?
Well, that's right. It depends how you
Slant rhyme.
pronounce your
That's
French. You can check out this series of interviews we've been doing with people who are involved in The Mill, which is our own collection of budding entrepreneurs and people in the startup economy. Pat, maybe you can tell us more about The Mill. There was just an article today in the Herald Times about it.
Yeah, the mill is going to be in a couple weeks when we open it. It's going to be Bloomington's very tangible, visible way to say, here's how the city and our business community support entrepreneurs. It's going to be 19,000 square feet of co-working and incubator space. We'll have a handful of private offices, a 30-seat classroom, a 2,500 square foot event center.
And it's beautiful, by the way.
It's housed in a 100-year-old building that the city is graciously renovating and restoring. Lots of exposed brick, lots of reclaimed wood. All the flooring over the years has been planed and sanded down and laid back down so that we're kind of taking this old building.
Oh, right. This is apropos. It was originally in the Showers Brothers furniture factory.
Yep, it was one of the original Shower Brothers facilities. So it's got the nice sawtooth roofs with the windows facing north to let in all of the sunlight, but not all of the heat. As I mentioned, lots of exposed brick and lots of reclaimed wood, and over 150 seats for entrepreneurs and backpack and idea companies to be able to innovate and build, kind of in the same way that the Shower Brothers used to build in their facility.
So you, Pat, I hate to interrupt, but you were talking about backpack and idea companies. Mayor Lienhoop is talking about garage guys. I mean, this is sort of where they meet, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So backpack and idea companies are really how communities and cities like Bloomington and Columbus are going to grow in the future. These are folks that have a 9-to-5 job, sometimes that are working out of Starbucks, or maybe they have a part-time job, but this is what they want to do in the future. And when they add one job, they literally double the amount of jobs they've created. The net new job creation in America, almost all of it has been from companies with 5 people or less. So these are going to be really how our communities grow, where both communities are almost at full employment, if not completely there already. And so even if we could attract a really large company to build a manufacturing plant or a facility here, we don't have enough population to be able to populate that and to service it. And so really the way that our communities are going to continue to grow and create more opportunities for everybody else is through these small companies that add 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 jobs. Eventually we want them to get bigger to create more opportunities for everybody else, but really most of the growth is going to be from these smaller companies just adding 1 job and 2 jobs and 3 jobs here and there.
I would just add they generally tend to be high wage jobs.
That's it. Yes, thank you.
In this sector, so I know Elevate has a statistic that the jobs created in their portfolio average twice the Indiana average income. So that's exciting.
And another thing I think I kind of referenced before, it's what's the is it the drugstore or the gas station model, where if you have more things happening next to each other, they help each other. The more companies and the more vitality that's happening in Columbus actually helps Bloomington, because and vice versa. I think as people look at locating here, young people, young companies are looking all over the country or the world, and we have incredible quality of life to offer here. It's great communities to live in. But it also, people think about, well, what if this job doesn't work out? Or what's my spouse going to do as they're moving? And the more vitality and options we have for those kinds of creative backpack and idea people, the better. And Mayor, I remember you even saying a while back to me, I remember you mentioned, having 1,000 jobs arrive at once has happened. It happened more in the past, but more likely now is have 100 companies grow 10 jobs over a period of 10 years or something like that. And that's what we see and what we want to see.
Yeah, Columbus has been extraordinarily successful in attracting companies from overseas. We have about 37 foreign-owned companies, in Columbus today. And many of those came, with 200 jobs right at the outset. And given the unemployment issues that we've got, that's just going to be more difficult, to attract going forward. So it is going to be difficult for us to grow the employment base, but if we do it at 2 or 3 or 6 at a time, well, that's a pace we can manage. That pace works for both our communities. So this program makes a lot of sense, and for us to be able to continue to grow the economies that we have in our communities.
I remind me, if you could, I don't remember all of it, but the components of the Elevate include an entrepreneur in residence. There's some matching capital investment and other things. What are we bringing to town with it?
Yeah, there's an entrepreneur in residence, which is the shorthand for that is EIR. So you may hear us say that today. What this person is going to do is they're a full-time mentor to startups. So they teach them everything they need to know about growing and building their company. They mentor them and guide them and coach them. So that person's going to be full-time, and they'll split their time evenly between Columbus and Bloomington.
They have an office in Nashville, or do we know they're going to be both sides?
I think they're going to be in the car quite a bit, traveling back and forth. So I don't know that they'll have an office.
Yeah.
So that's part of the Elevate deal. There'll also be $200,000 in seed money. So what this means is for companies who are either getting off the ground and have a hurdle that they need to get over. Maybe it's a technological hurdle. They need a little bit of capital to work on this project, or maybe somebody has an idea that they need to vet out and they need a little bit of capital to be able to to determine whether or not it's viable. We'll have a small committee of somebody from Columbus, somebody from Bloomington, and a representative from Elevate Ventures. They'll determine how much those folks get and how often they get that money. So that'll be $200,000 in proof of concept money, walking around money, as some folks say. There'll be $800,000 in capital that's reserved specifically for companies who are past that stage that really need capital to grow. So they've kind of proven out their concept. They still have a few things to figure out, but they really need a lot more capital to be able to grow and scale. So that's $800,000 that's specifically reserved for companies in Bloomington and Columbus. And in past years, that money has actually ran out from the state. And so this is a huge deal for us to be able to not only have that amount, but have it specifically reserved for us. So even if other cities use up their allotment, that won't affect us, which is great. And of course, we'll have all kinds of resources and connections with Elevate Ventures. They have a lot of resources both online and in connections, and just all the investments and all the connections they make as well. That'll help us tremendously here.
Yeah, really looking forward to enhancing some programming in our community and using some of the expertise that Bloomington has to do that, not only for entrepreneurs, but also for potential investors. So looking to develop angel investors in our own backyard will be an important piece of this. And we know there are those people in our community who would be willing to do that, but to provide them with some guidance and help them match with high potential businesses will be another important part of this.
All you successful entrepreneurs out there who've already got your nest egg, remember, there may be opportunities, as you said, to build a culture, a series of investment in your own community. In Indiana, it doesn't have a strong record in that yet. You know, we had what's it called, Rise of the Rest through that reminded people, I think, that 75% of the venture money in America goes to Massachusetts, California, and New York,
yeah.
Right? And that's not where 3/4 of the good ideas are. So we want to build that locally too.
Yeah. Well, we have some questions from our viewers, so thanks a lot for writing those in. We hear from Tyler. He says, having that available capital for businesses to grow and expand is a great idea. Thanks, Tyler. Vote of confidence. We also heard from Bill, who says, I've been a small business owner in the technology sector in Bloomington for the past 10 years. And Bill says, I did not hear anything specifically to help engage new business in either community. I don't know if he means in the past or firm, but many businesses like mine can't qualify for funding in order to grow. Would love to hear more or talk with local representatives. Maybe I missed something. Maybe we can suggest to Bill how he might hook up with some of these lovely venture capital funds.
That'll be part of the job description for the entrepreneur in residence, is how to seek people out like Bill. And there'll be a myriad of ways where how they'll do that. I think that references either to the Chamber of Commerce in Columbus or the Dimension Mill or the Mill, in Bloomington. The traditional way would be through bankers and attorneys. But I think that after this is a little bit more mature, what we'll find is that there's a network of entrepreneurial type people, and they'll talk to each other. These collisions that you referred to earlier, and by that we'll get references or referrals to the entrepreneur in residence, who can then connect the person and the entrepreneur to the assistance that we're talking about.
And you guys know more than I, but this is definitely not just focused on brand new startup companies. This is, in fact, a lot of this is looking at high growth potential companies who have barriers, opportunities to expand from 10 employees to 20 or 20 to 50, and I think Bill and others like him and other entrepreneurs out there jump into the programming that you'll see, and I mean, this funding is not just for new companies.
It's not just for new companies, it's for existing companies. We want to accelerate their growth as well. And I think it's really important also to mention that it's not exclusively for technology companies or companies that we would think are kind of stereotypically innovation driven. So sometimes we kind of focus on just software companies, but really we want any company that has a potential for high growth. So that could mean a company like mine, Hannibin Marketing, that does mainly consulting with search engines. We don't have any developers on staff, but yet we bring in lots of capital from outside of Bloomington that of course our employees get and we get and the community benefits from. We've been talking with some folks at IU who have backgrounds in retail, specifically the former CMO of Fossil, CMO, Chief Marketing Officer of Fossil. He has a deep retail background, and we've been talking with him about can he work with our local small businesses who don't have an e-commerce presence to be able to start selling their products online. So moving beyond downtown Bloomington or downtown Columbus to be able to reach a global wider audience. Anytime we talk about these companies about bringing in capital from outside of Bloomington, that's really what we mean by technology driven, innovation driven. All these businesses are important. Restaurants, barbershops, they help circulate capital within our communities. They're important for living our daily lives. We have to have places like that. We have to have our coffee shops. And so these businesses aren't, they're just different. One's not better than the other. They're just different types of businesses that we need. But these types of businesses that we're going to focus on in the Elevate partnership, they're going to be the ones that really help us grow. And we want to focus on the ones that have high potential, but as I mentioned, that doesn't just mean it's software only.
Yeah. You know, Pat, I've really learned a lot as I've been interviewing some of the entrepreneurs who are going to be taking up residence in the mill, and that it's not just software developers or tech guys. In fact, one of the most interesting people is a woman who started with a beekeeping club over at IU, and now she's grown her concept, which promotes hive health, into a global business. And so it's called the B Corp.
Of course.
So kind of a double entendre. So I think it's important to focus on that we're not, if this all seems a little abstract, in fact, some of these little backpack and idea companies that do turn into things that have global reach are quite organic.
Yep, they are. And I think it's really important as we talk about these technology or high growth companies is that as those companies hire one high tech, high wage position, it actually creates 4 or 5 other service jobs downstream to be able to support that growth, and they're typically higher wages than normal service jobs. So as an example, there's a company in Bloomington that does a lot of artificial intelligence around fantasy sports. So they take the box scores, and all their software actually creates a narrative that reads like a human does. Well,
just what I need.
Well, the way they actually get better at writing is there's real writers on staff. So they just hired somebody that we referred to them from cohort B-Town.
Attention English majors.
Yeah, exactly. And so there's lots of these different types of jobs that are going to be grown and created as a result of all these companies. And it's not just kind of your stereotypical technology companies. As you mentioned, B Corp is focusing on beehives. That's not something you would normally think of as high tech, but they do have global clients.
I just want to make one other comment too, which is both of our communities, I think, have, for a community of our sizes, deep and strong international connections that aren't necessarily typical. Columbus, of course, has had so much international through your business sector, Cummins and many others, as you mentioned, from around the world. Bloomington as well, with some companies that do major international work, and of course an international university that does that. And that's really important for the future too, because our economies are changing. The importance of a community feeling and being international and welcoming and inclusive, so that the new companies and the new ideas, which more and more are going to be reflecting the way our world's changing, that's really important. And I think that's another way that Columbus and Bloomington can kind of amplify each other in saying, look, in southern Indiana, there are these two, small communities, relatively small cities that connect with the world in really important ways.
It's interesting you say that, because one of my aha moments was maybe a year and a half ago. I was seated with a Cummins vice president, and his point was that we often think of southern Indiana as an undiverse place, but he says it's far more diverse than you realize. He said if you really want to see a lack of diversity, go to India, go to China. Those places are not very diverse. But you can bring those people here, and they add to the fabric, and you get the synergy that we talked about earlier, where 2 + 2 = 5. And you're able to design a program that incorporates elements from all across the world, the program or product, And so that's what we bring, that's what we offer. And I think that, we just got to get a little better organized, which is going to help us do that. And the future's going to be bright.
I can imagine, I don't mean to preempt what you might say, but I can imagine some folks saying, well, how do I fit in? My family worked for 3 generations cutting stone or working on a factory line. I don't know how to program computers. I'm, from Indiana. I have these skills. What's in this new economy for me? How are you going to take care of me? And so how would one respond to that?
Well, one of the things that we're really working on is building out some of the more technical education training programs in our community. Our Ivy Tech organization just partnered with the National Guard to create a cybersecurity academy nearby at Muscatatuck. And that's really important for engine software, but for all kinds of, the military cares about it a lot. But most businesses are trying to tap into that as cars become more automated. That cybersecurity for the data that's coming off those vehicles will be really important. So I hope as an outgrowth of this program, we'll have more of those sort of short-term training programs to help people skill up to be successful in the new economy. It's something we've been working on a long time in not only Columbus, but throughout our region. We don't want people to be left behind. We want everyone to come together. And I just want to tag on what we were talking about earlier in terms of the international communities. It's a real strength of ours in Columbus to have so many people who are migrating to Columbus, but also who are in Columbus on expat assignments, because they all often bring a talented spouse or partner with them who don't have a work visa. So we certainly want to help everyone who's in our community be productive and make a contribution, and I think there's a lot of potential with that population as well.
That sounds very promising. It looks like we have another question from WFHB. They are asking, where is the $1 million coming from? So we've got the 1.5 plus the 1 million.
And so in Bloomington, our portion of that 1 million is $500,000, and so that's coming from a handful of very generous companies who see the future Bloomington that we're trying to create, where everybody has a lot more opportunities and wages are higher. So there have been a handful of companies. I can't announce all of them just yet, but they're some of the companies that you would think would support this type of effort in Bloomington.
When will we announce it? Will it be at the mill, or when are we going to do that?
We'll announce that. Thank you for that segue. We'll announce that at our launch party on November 15th.
Okay.
And so we'll be announcing our portion of that, because we're fundraising not only for the Elevate portion for the regional partnership, but we're fundraising for operations at the mill as well. So we'll be able to announce all that in more detail in a couple weeks. But generally speaking, it's larger corporations. Our entrepreneurs are really stepping up to the plate as well. The ones who have had some success in their business. The elevator if you're able to ride the elevator up, they're sending it back down for others, and so they're making sure that other folks have that same opportunity as well.
I think that was a metaphor, I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
No, and in Columbus, similar, two grant-making institutions, some public dollars and some private donations. So I think we'll go public probably in December at our launch party in Nashville at Hard Truth Hill.
Nice. And I think it's important to recognize that so Bloomington's 200 years old this year, and through our history, public and private have worked together to build a successful city. I mean, nothing happens alone. You looked at the Showers Brothers. I'm reminded when the Showers Brothers factory, which was the largest furniture factory at the time in America, burned down in Bloomington, the public sector stepped up to help rebuild the factory here. And we worked together to create a successful community, to offer jobs and the quality of life that everybody wants. And this is another step in that, I think.
And it's also important to think about how the Showers Company was involved in creating some of the public infrastructure and starting sewers and roads and things like that. So it's always been that nice dance between the public and the private. Speaking of Showers, of course, that was a manufacturing-based economy, and I think the bigger message here, as far as this new economy is concerned, is that Indiana is really looking closely at this new economy, this innovation-based, knowledge-based, and entrepreneurial economy to take us to that next place. We had that manufacturing base, and so lest folks think, oh, what are these kind of wonky, high-tech new businesses they're talking about? Is this some kind of subculture? No, I think what we're talking about today is that you've got this knowledge base with all of these entrepreneurs, you've got this funding at this high level, because this is the direction that our economy is taking in the state. Would that be an accurate statement?
Yeah, I think that's very accurate. And maybe the way I would frame it is that this money that we've raised and this money that we're getting in terms of a match from Elevate, it's going to help activate our communities. We're really not building so much as we're activating. Bloomington and Columbus have we're both two cities of really intelligent, smart people, and we need to, as Cindy mentioned earlier, we need to train these folks for the new economy. They're willing and able to receive training. We just have to teach them the things they need to know to be able to do these jobs and to be able to grow our communities and create these opportunities. So for me, kind of the way I would frame it is definitely more activating what's already here versus, hey, we have to build something from ground zero. So I think we already have a really good base to work from, and both communities have a good base to work from, and because of that, we'll be able to make a lot of progress quickly.
So we have a few important dates to remind our viewers of. We've got the Mill ribbon cutting happening on Halloween. So November 15th, I guess, is
November 15th is the launch party.
The launch party. And then in December
6th.
Tell us what's happening.
So that's another launch for the whole partnership, and we'll be there with our friends from Elevate Ventures, and we'll be kicking off this new union and making some important announcements.
The three-way handshake with the City of Bloomington, City of Columbus, and the folks from Minneapolis.
You need more extra hands, I think.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
I was just going to say, we're talking about this as a 3-year partnership, but I really anticipate this is going to be much more of a long-term relationship that we're sort of signifying the beginning of today. It's not going to be done in 3 years. We're going to get a good start in 3 years, but this is really long-term work. We're building out a really vibrant entrepreneurial ecosystem, and we're in it for the long haul. We really look forward to partnering with our Bloomington friends and with Elevate Ventures for many, many decades.
And Bloomington's in it for the long haul as well.
Okay.
I hope it goes unsaid, but I wanted to make sure, since we were live in the public, that we think of this long term as well. And it's just, the first 3 years are going to create a good foundation for us, and that's the foundation off which we build.
Amen. Yeah.
So it would be important to let our entrepreneurs know who are watching right now how they might get involved and how they can reach out to you in Columbus and in Bloomington and get involved in qualifying for some of these funds.
So the easiest way to get involved in the mill and in the Bloomington entrepreneurial community is go to dimensionmill.org, sign up for our newsletter, or hit our contact form and tell us what you're doing. We would love to meet with you. Would love to try to make some connections for you and kind of network you into our community.
Yeah, and on the Columbus side, the chamber is in a visible location at 5th and Franklin, but our website is columbusareachamber.com.
And as the mayor knows, if you can't think of anybody else to call, just call the mayor's office. We can connect you, right?
We are good at connections, yes. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think that brings our conversation to a close for today. It's been wonderful to have you watching today. Thanks for tuning in for another Facebook Live Town Hall from Bloomington City Hall. Our guests today have been Mayor John Hamilton, Mayor Jim Lienhoop, Pat East, the Executive Director of Dimension Mill Inc., and Cindy Frey, the President of the Columbus Area Chamber of Commerce. Thank you all so much. I'm Yael Ksander, Communications Director for the City of Bloomington. Have a nice day.
I think we need a handshake. All right, here we go.
Okay,
Thank you, sir.
we'll do that.
Looking forward to it. Looking forward to it.